Dalvin Cook was one of the most exciting and yet also most tragic stories of the 2017 season. He burst out of the gate as a rookie, rushing for 350 yards in his first 3.5 games and putting himself on pace for a ridiculous 1,600 yards on the ground, despite the fact that both of the Vikings starting guards were, shall we say, fundamentally challenged at the time. And then right as Cook and his line were really starting to get into their groove as a unit against Detroit, it was all over. One wrong cut and his season was done. I evaluated Cook very closely on this channel while he was at Florida State and compared him to some pretty lofty standards in Marshall Faulk and Arian Foster, but before this week I had yet to really dig into his tape in Minnesota. I wanted to see if my evaluation of his skill set from college matched my tape evaluation of his skill set with the Vikings, and I'm happy to say that, well, the pros have really not changed him at all. He's still the exact same running back, and he's still making the same big plays in the NFL that he did in the ACC. In fact, you could say that everything about that evaluation in college carried over to his rookie season, including the negatives. He's still very inconsistent in his pass protection technique, even if he has improved in that department a little bit compared to his time at Florida State. And although his hands are excellent when he actually looks the ball in, Cook still suffers from concentration drops when he doesn't take the time to fundamentally complete the catch. He had 5 such drops in the first 4 weeks alone, which was a quarter of the Vikings' drops as a team throughout the whole season, and he had that many in just 3.5 games. That issue will probably improve as he gets more experience and the game slows down for him, but as of right now, it is still a very legitimate nagging issue. Cook also struggled when running behind his pads directly into defenders as well, just like he struggled with it in college. If tacklers came at him from the side or at an angle, he was able to use his natural balance and quickness to kind of glance off the blow and get yards through contact. But when defenders squared up on him in the hole and took him on directly face to face, he basically went nowhere, except backwards, of course. I questioned his ability to be a short yardage back in my scouting report because of that lack of power, and so far he's done nothing to make me think that that has changed yet in the NFL. However, even with those negatives still persisting as a rookie, the positives with his game tape are persisting as well, which far outweigh everything else. For starters, Cook's lateral agility, fluidity, and balance are top-notch, even by NFL standards. He might not be able to run straight through a linebacker or a safety, sure, but his lower body is so fluid that he's able to sink his hips to get as much explosiveness into a jump cut as possible, reset those hips in midair in the middle of that jump cut, put his opposite foot on the ground to redirect himself upon landing, and change direction in an instant to put himself at a better angle to take that hit in the first place. He's not going to run over people, of course, but he's so quick that he can position himself so that he doesn't have to. Like I said, he's much better at generating yards through contact if he limits these hits to glancing blows rather than direct shots, and he's so agile that he can turn a direct shot into a glancing blow in just one step. That's how he's able to survive as an inside runner between the tackles even without having any notable power, and in my opinion he makes that style work just fine. You certainly can't argue with the results at least, even if it's rather unconventional. His feet are good for more than just generating extra yards between the tackles though, they generate huge plays out on the edges as well. I think my favorite run of Cook's during his very short rookie year was a 25-yarder against Pittsburgh that got taken down just short of the end zone. The Steelers are in a 2-4-5 nickel personnel and they're showing a 6-man pressure package, and I want you to pay attention to how Pittsburgh is aligned here and how this blitz is designed. There is only one second-level defender on the field inside the tackle box, and that's Ryan Shazier. Shazier has to flow to the weak side of the Vikings formation during the handoff because Dalvin is in a flanking alignment, which means the handoff can only go in one direction. Shazier has to flow with that handoff in that one direction, and because of how the Steelers are aligned, there's nobody there to cover a potential cutback lane on the backside. Unless Williams drops out of his blitz, which he doesn't, there is literally nobody there. It's just empty grass, and Cook knows this. So after the snap, when Shazier is flowing to that weak side hole like he's supposed to, and Bud Dupree is slanting inside to create space for that blitz like he's supposed to, and Williams is blitzing off the edge like he's supposed to, it creates a giant canyon for Cook to run through that was basically inevitable. There was pretty much no way to avoid this just because of how that alignment and the blitz call interact with each other, but inevitable hole or not, Cook still has to get through it, and he does so with the same smoothness and fluidity that he had at Florida State. Watch him put that left foot in the ground as soon as he gets the ball while opening up his right hip to the hole. He's generating all of his explosiveness from the left foot and redirecting that explosiveness with the right foot simultaneously. Then, with his great vision in traffic, he spots Kyle Rudolph about to give him an edge on the safety, and he takes that opportunity for a big play. Truly special running backs have what I call both pre-snap and post-snap vision. With pre-snap vision, they know where the lane is probably going to be based on alignment and how to exploit it, which I just showed Cook do, and they have improvisational post-snap vision skills to see when something is developing in front of them in real time and how to exploit it in real time. Cook is very, very good with both types of vision, and he combined that with his fluid hips and explosive burst to get this edge and put the Vikings in position for a touchdown that they desperately needed at this point in the game. Just over a year ago, I labeled Cook as the ultimate offensive weapon of the 2017 draft class, and this kind of run right here is why. Throughout his 3.5 healthy games, he earned that label all over again, and if Cook didn't tear his ACL on some random cut in the open field, he could have easily challenged Alvin Kamara and Kareem Hunt in the race for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He has exceptional vision, exceptional balance and burst, and when he actually pays attention to the ball hitting his hands, exceptional receiving skills as well. Yes, he still has zero power to move a pile, his pass protection is nowhere near refined yet, and his top end speed when he gets into a foot race is just kind of average. But you know who else that describes? A young Arian Foster. Foster wasn't super fast once he cleared the second level, he wasn't a runner that would bludgeon you to death between the tackles, but his vision and his feet were so unbelievable that it more than made up for his shortcomings. As long as Cook's health issues do not mirror Foster's, he can and will be just as good as Arian was in his prime. That means at least 100 total yards a game, most likely more, and he'll be in the discussion with the other top running backs of the league every single year. I wasn't just being hyperbolic when I said that the gap between Fournette and Cook as prospects was not that big. I truly believed in his talent, and after watching him find success in Minnesota with, quite frankly, a messy offensive line situation in front of him, I believe in him now more than ever. This is a very special player that Minnesota managed to snag in the second round, and we should all wish to be so lucky as Vikings fans are to witness the greatness of Adrian Peterson lead directly into the Dalvin Cook era. It's a very hard legacy to live up to these days, being a Vikings running back that is, but in those first 4 weeks, that hugely productive month of September, Cook showed that he is more than worthy of carrying on that legacy. 15 months ago, I said that Dalvin Cook was a Pro Bowl ready running back out of the box for whatever team drafted him. Now, after seeing what he can do for real, I think even that just might have been selling him short. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode. Before I go, I wanted to let you all know that I'm going to Europe in less than a week for a very, very belated honeymoon, so my content schedule is going to be a bit different during that time. I didn't get to take a honeymoon when I got married back in November because I know this is going to sound super workaholic-ish, but the season was going on. I couldn't afford to really miss any weeks of pumping out content. I had sponsorship deals in place. It was too much to do at once. But now it's May, the draft is over, nothing's really happening in the league right now, so me and my wife finally have time to go on a trip and just gorge ourselves on Swiss chocolate and fondue for a couple weeks. How this affects content for the channel, though, is I'm currently hard at work on another episode that will release on Tuesday, and while I'm on my trip, I'll release another episode that is a viewer Q&A that I'll be pre-recording over the weekend. So if you are a Patreon supporter for the channel, you probably saw that exclusive Patreon Q&A that I did last week. It's going to work kind of like that, but I'll be answering your questions much more in depth than those, because it's going to be less questions, obviously. There's dozens of them on Patreon, but for this, it'll kind of just be more narrowed down. But it'll be in kind of a podcast format. I'll answer questions if you have asked them on Patreon. Of course, I'm going to answer all of those because you guys pay me and sustain my living, so it's a no-brainer that I'll answer every single question on that platform. But for this viewer Q&A on the channel, I'll be choosing questions from both Patreon and Twitter so that we can include people that maybe can't afford to be patrons. So if you are a Patreon supporter, feed me some questions on, maybe specific schemes or players or matchups or just general football or team building philosophy, and I'll take a deep dive into all those. Every question will get answered. Some will get answered even more on this video. And if you follow me on Twitter, do the exact same thing. I'll put out a post you can reply to, or you could just tag me, whatever you want to do. It's totally fine. This is the first time I've done this kind of video, but you guys always ask me such great, insightful questions. You have great discussions all the time. It's an amazing community, and you guys really know your stuff. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to turn out really cool. But anyway, feed me those questions. I'll choose some of them for the video. I'll talk about them until I'm blue in the face. And before that, I'll see you back here on Tuesday for the next true, proper Film Room episode. So until then, later.